Before I proceed, Honourable Paulson, on what point are you rising?
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Deputy Speaker, is not a point, but to my knowledge, there are members here and there are chamber staff. What is the status of those two gentlemen there in front? What do they do here?
They are part of the gallery.
Not in the gallery, they're in the chambers.
Honourable Paulson, I will
Gallery's
ask,
over there.
Honourable
What are they doing?
Paulson,
in the chambers?
we will inquire. We will inquire.
But why do you,
Honourable
but why
Paulson,
were you so arrogant? Couldn't you say that instead of telling me that's not the gallery?
because I believe they're in
The gallery is
gallery.
over there.
Honourable Paulson, I have now said we will inquire. We will now proceed. The first supplementary question will be asked by the Honourable Mulder.
Thank you, Honourable Deputy Speaker. Thank you, Honourable President, for a very comprehensive reply, an impressive reply, making it very clear all the steps that are being taken by government. And if there's one thing that the Government of National Unity, I think, have in common is the commitment to economic growth. And a lot of things, the things that you mentioned this afternoon is in terms of Operation Vulindlela. And we accept that, and if I understand it correctly, it means to open the way, but the way is not open. There's a problem with the way, with all due respect. I want to say that if you look at the World Bank's report, it clearly indicates that the average growth at the moment for developing countries is around 4%. If you look at the top 10 African countries, the growth rates there vary between the lowest 5.9% to 7.9%. Even in terms of all the things that you have now mentioned this afternoon, your own Minister of Finance in the budget last week indicated that our current growth rate is 1.4, hopefully next year 1.6, despite all the programs, hopefully in the year thereafter 1.8%. Our unemployment is 32%. Something is wrong. There's a huge problem. And the problem, Honourable President, is that all the issues that you mentioned, all the wonderful programs and the investments, as far as I'm concerned, are based on the current economic policy of government, the underlying economic policy. Now, that's why I asked the question specifically, are you prepared to take the initiative and to take the necessary steps to amend, to develop an economic policy that can make possible real economic growth in South Africa? Because that's what we need. If we don't have real economic growth, none of the programs that you've mentioned will be successful. None of them will be implemented. But that real new economic policy, as far as I'm concerned, needs to take a different approach with regard to certain basic things that I don't know if you're prepared to do that with regard to black economic empowerment, with regard to equity, employment equity.
Thank you, Honourable
with regard to
Mulder. Your time has
factors
expired.
and appropriation without compensation. Are you prepared to do that? Thank you, sir.
The President.
Thank you, Honourable Deputy Speaker. I did say that the Government of National Unity is going to spend a considerable amount of hours in a number of days to come, just discussing the economic strategy and trajectory that we should pursue. Our ambition, Honourable Member, Dr. Mulder, is to make sure that our economy grows higher than what the projections are currently. That is our ambition. And the medium-term development plan gives the pointers of where we should be going. What the Minister of Finance also articulated on this platform also gives the pointers of where we are headed. And I'm rather surprised and taken aback when I hear
what you just said now
that
is not different from what you've been
policies of black economic empowerment militate against the growth of our economy. That I find quite surprising, because I work from the starting point that our economy was held back over many years by the racist policies of the past. Those racist policies prevented all South Africans, or the majority of South Africans, to play a meaningful role in the economy of their own country. They were brought in Black people were brought in as hewers of wood and drawers of water. And they were just brought in as laborers. They were not even seen as consumers. They were not seen as active players in the economic landscape of our country. With democracy, what has now been happening and what we seek to see happening is the opening up of the economy, the broadening up of economic participation, which if you observe, Honorable Dr. Mulder, you will actually see, and it's right in your face. You know, in apartheid South Africa, if you looked, for instance, at adverts for commodities, you would never see a Black person being made to advertise either soap or milk or anything. Today, every advert you look at has got Black people, because it's now been realized that it is Black people who are the consumers, and they are economic players. Now, those who would want Black people just to play the consumer role are truly mistaken. Black people must play a productive role as well. So I am really baffled. I'm baffled by people who still hanker for policies of the past. And to have you, sir, saying Black economic empowerment is holding our economy back goes completely against even what the World Bank says. Now, this I find quite surprising, because what is known very clearly as well is that, and a few years ago, the World Bank and the IMF came up with a report that one of the things that holds South Africa's economy back from growth is the level of concentration. Concentration because they said the ownership of the economy is in far too few hands. Ownership has not spread. That is what the World Bank and IMF said. And that is precisely what happens in other countries. When you go to other countries, you'll find the citizens. I mean, in Africa, it will largely be Black people. Wherever you go in the world, it will be the citizens. Now, in our country, it was just the few privileged, and may I continue to say white people, who continue to own the means of production, who continue to own the productive economy of our country. Now,
We took them to America.
now this I find very worrying. I find it very worrying that we continue to have this notion that BEE is the one that's holding our economy back. It is the partial and exclusive ownership of the means of production in our country that is holding this economy from growing. So what we seek to do, as set out in the equality clause in our Constitution, to redress the imbalances of the past. If we accept that the ownership of our economy is imbalanced, the clause on equality in our Constitution seeks to undo that, to redress that. So therefore, ownership of our economy should be broadened. And I can tell you, Dr. Mulder, there's nothing that gives our people joy, particularly Black people, as they go around and they find that this production facility is owned by a Black person. It warms one's heart. It makes us feel so good, because we've come from a horrible past when that was not allowed by law, where people were arrested. If you wanted to set up an economic facility in town, you were put to jail. But today, we are saying all that must be put behind us. We must allow more and more people to play an important role in the economy of our country. And this is what baffles me by those who are opposed to Black economic empowerment. I say, what do you want to see happening? Do you want to see Black people continuing to play the role of laborers, drawers of water, hewers of wood, and consumers only? Why can't Black people be made to own productive aspects of our economy? Why can't they be rich as well? That is what needs to happen. Because it is when they get to that level. Dr. Mulder, you look at the Afrikaners, the history of your people. If you look at the history of your people, they were held back by the English. And with later days, they were enabled. They became more and more economically empowered. And they became economically empowered due to the policies of apartheid, the laws that were put in place, the sweet deals that they were given, and they started getting more and more into being serious economic players. Why can't the same be done for Black people? Why? And this baffles me. Really, I don't understand it, because to me, that is the normal thing to do. You need, as a nation, to say, this group has been disempowered. It's been disempowered, we need to empower it. Like the approach we have now, the rural areas of our country have been disadvantaged, and we're seeking to direct more and more assistance and empowerment to the rural areas, so that the rural areas also come up. Now, anyone who will tell me that that is wrong, really, I think they must have their heads examined, because that cannot be the case. So my answer, therefore, is our objective is to spread economic participation broadly. And I will hold on to the argument that the more we have previously disadvantaged people playing a role in the economy of their own country, the better it is.
No,
Because then
don't
we're able to bake a much bigger cake so that everyone participates
Right,
in having the cake. Thank you very much.
because we don't have.
Thank you, Honourable President. Could I again ask the members on the platform to please make sure that your devices are muted?